The check-in line at JFK was a serpentine coil of weary travelers and bulging suitcases. Screens above the counters flickered with departure cities. London, Tokyo, São Paulo, Paris. People fidgeted with passports. Babies whimpered, and the smell of coffee from a nearby kiosk mingled with the sterile scent of polished floors. I shifted my carry-on from one hand to the other, trying to ignore the sharp click of my sister's heels just ahead of me. Samantha had always walked like the world was a runway designed for her alone. Her glossy brown hair swayed with practiced precision, her tailored blazer hugged her frame like armor, and every movement seemed rehearsed for maximum effect. I, on the other hand, stood there in simple jeans, sneakers, and a navy jacket, trying not to sweat under the fluorescent lights. "Keep up," she tossed over her shoulder without looking. "I am," I muttered. She turned, lips curled into that familiar smirk. "You're dragging, as usual." Heat crept up my neck. This trip was supposed to be a business opportunity, an international conference where I'd present ideas alongside colleagues. But traveling with Samantha had already turned it into a competition, one she had no intention of letting me forget. When we finally reached the front, the agent greeted us politely. Samantha slid her passport across the counter like it was a credit card made of gold. "Business class, seat 3A, she announced before the agent even checked. Her voice carried, making sure the man behind us with his rumpled hoodie and the woman with 2 toddlers both heard it. The agent nodded, typing quickly, then looked at me. "And you?" I handed over my passport. Before I could open my mouth, Samantha laughed, loud, sharp, calculated. "Oh, don't bother asking her," she said. "She doesn't deserve business. Put her in economy, where she belongs." The words detonated in the air, shocking in their cruelty. Heads turned, people in line, the man with the hoodie, even the toddlers staring with wide eyes. My chest tightened, blood rushing to my ears. The agent froze, blinking in awkward silence. "Excuse me?" Samantha waved her manicured hand. "She's tagging along, but let's not pretend. She's not business material. Trust me, I know her." The humiliation was sharp and immediate, my throat closing around any response. The floor beneath me felt like it had tilted, turning me into a sideshow. The agent's eyes flicked between us, clearly uncomfortable. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, another voice cut through the din, calm, firm, unmistakably authoritative. "Ma'am?" said a woman in uniform approaching from the side. "That's not appropriate." It was a supervisor, her navy blazer crisp, her name tag gleaming. She looked directly at Samantha. "We do not tolerate belittling passengers in our check-in area. Everyone here deserves respect." The line hushed, every ear straining. Samantha blinked, taken aback for half a second, then recovered with a scoff. "Was joking." "It didn't sound like a joke," the supervisor replied, her tone steady. "And jokes that humiliate others aren't welcome here." The agent cleared his throat, fingers flying over the keyboard. "Actually, Miss C, my last name," he said, looking at me now. "There's a note on your reservation. You've been upgraded." I blinked. "Upgraded?" "Yes, to first class," he confirmed, printing the boarding pass. The universe couldn't have scripted it better. Samantha's jaw tightened, her polished smile cracking for the first time. "What?" she snapped. "That must be a mistake." The agent slid the boarding pass toward me, his expression unreadable, but his eyes carrying the faintest spark of satisfaction. "It's no mistake. Enjoy your flight, Ms. Last Name. Seat 1C." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the line. The man in the hoodie gave me a small nod of approval. The toddlers clapped, not knowing why but sensing the drama. I took the boarding pass with trembling fingers. My humiliation transmuted into something startling, vindication. For once, I wasn't the butt of Samantha's joke. For once, the world had tilted in my favor. Samantha spun on her heel, her smile now brittle. "First class?" she hissed, low enough for only me to hear. "You don't even know how to sit in first class." I steadied my breath. "Guess I'll learn," I whispered back. The supervisor guided us aside to clear the line. "Have a safe flight," she said firmly, her gaze lingering on me with quiet encouragement before returning to her post. As we moved toward security, Samantha walked stiffly, her heels striking the floor harder than before. I followed, boarding pass in hand, the words "first class" bold against the paper. The weight of the humiliation hadn't vanished, but something else had joined it. an ember of defiance. For once, I wasn't chasing her. For once, I was walking beside her, knowing that the story of this trip had already changed before we even reached the gate. And I had no idea then that the battle in the air, the stairs, the whispers, and the tension waiting at 35,000 feet would make this small victory only the beginning. Security swallowed us in fluorescent light and gray bins. Samantha breezed through as if the metal detector recognized her as an exception to physics. I shuffled behind, coaxing my laptop, shoes, and dignity onto the belt. When I relaced my sneakers, she was already tapping her foot at the end of the lane. "Try not to embarrass yourself at the lounge," she said, taking a hairpin from her blazer pocket and fixing a microscopic strand that dared to be human. "You'll be out of your depth." "I'm going to the gate," I said, holding up my boarding pass with "first" printed like a dare. Her eyes narrowed. "They'll take one look at you and assume it's a fluke." "Maybe it is," I said, "but it's my fluke." We split. She veered toward the glass doors that guarded the business lounge. I followed the current of travelers toward our pier of gates. As I walked, I traced the edges of the morning scene, turning over each detail to prove to myself it had actually happened. "You don't deserve business." Humiliation had been the first heat. Something else now kindled under it, a steadier flame that didn't need oxygen from her. At the gate, an island of order waited amid the clamor. 2 agents with name tags I could finally read without my hands shaking, a rope demarcating the premium lane, a tray of water cups sweating under the AC. I checked the monitor, on time, and took a seat far enough from the counter to be invisible, close enough to observe. People did what people do. Refolded already perfect papers, checked phone, promised texts from the tarmac. Samantha arrived later, cheeks glossy with lounge confidence. She stood, planted, triangular, shoulders squared, tote perfectly zipped, passport held like a scepter. When pre-boarding was announced for families with small children, she stepped forward with them until an agent gently redirected her. She smiled thinly and retreated exactly 1 pace. "Ladies and gentlemen," the gate agent said, bright and unruffled, "we'll begin boarding with first class shortly, followed by business." She glanced at my boarding pass when I drifted near for water and gave me the tiniest nod, a secret handshake for the newly anointed. First was called. I moved when asked, not before, and let my feet learn the new choreography. Samantha's gaze locked on me, a tether straining. "They're calling your group?" she said softly. "Don't look overeager." I smiled. "I'll aim for appropriately eager." The scanner beeped. The screen flashed green. The agent returned my pass with a practiced, "Enjoy your flight, Ms. Last Name." And without meaning to, I straightened, as if posture could be a receipt for this moment. The jet bridge breathed cool air. At the aircraft door, a flight attendant with a soft southern lilt and gold stripes at his cuff ushered me left instead of the right I had known my whole life. First class was a small cathedral of quiet light, wide seats angled toward privacy, a hush that felt upholstered. A second attendant, short hair, espresso eyes, name tag Maya, met me with a warm politeness that never tipped into pity. "Welcome aboard," she said. "May I take your coat?" I barely recognized the jacket as something that could be taken. "Thank you." "Champagne, water, or juice?" she asked, already reading my face for the answer I didn't know how to give. "Water, please." She set it down on an oval tray and showed me the seat's small luxuries with the grace of someone who knows hospitality is choreography. Light here, storage there, belt across the waist and shoulder. "If you need a quieter pillow," she added in a whisper, meant only for me, "ask. We have those." Across the aisle, 2 rows behind, I caught sight of Samantha entering the other cabin. She paused, blinked, recalibrated, then turned right into business. The curtain's promise of status, arranged to exclude just one more row than she had imagined. She texted me immediately, "Don't get used to it." I set my phone to Do Not Disturb and read the safety card with deliberate reverence, as if committing to memory a new language. Maya returned with a small dish of warm nuts and a smile that said, "We're not grading you." The purser introduced herself, a woman named Ingrid, with the serene authority of a person who had turned crisis into routine many times. Once seated, I took inventory of the feeling in my chest. Not triumph, Not exactly. Something quieter. Arrival without apology. Pushback, taxi, pause, the ballet of departures. The captain's voice carried a thread of humor. We'll ride a brisk tailwind today. Smooth skies after a few bumps early on. Sit. Maya came by to check belts. I realized I was ready for the bumps, not braced like a statue, but prepared to move with them. We surged down the runway. Engines lifted us into that private sky where the world below becomes tidy and distant, and your life looks like a design you might choose again. I closed my eyes for the count of 4, held, exhaled for 6. The old metronome worked in every cabin, it turned out. At 10,000 feet, the curtain sighed as the crew began service. Ingrid stopped by my seat, not hovering, but present. "If there's anything we can do to make this your flight," she said, "tell us. Your flight, not a category on a spreadsheet, not a grace loan, a possession, temporary but real." When the cart rolled, Maya placed my tray as if she were setting a table just for me and no one else for a moment. I didn't pretend to know which fork belonged to which. I picked up the spoon that felt right and let warmth anchor me. Halfway through the first course, my phone lit with a message from an unknown number. "Saw what happened at check-in. You handled it. Proud of you, stranger." I blinked away a sting I hadn't budgeted for. Later, when turbulence did the polite knock it had promised, Maya steadied a hand on the back of my seat, a small bridge between sky and skin. I breathed. The wing flexed, obedient and alive. A baby cried somewhere behind the curtain and was quieted. A man snored exactly once and apologized to no one. We were a city in the clouds, learning to share. I didn't see Samantha until descent announcements started, and the cabin lights rose a single shade. She was walking up the aisle to the forward lavatory when she glanced past the curtain and locked eyes with. For the first time, there was no smirk, only surprise, round and unguarded. She lifted her chin as if the gesture might rethread a necklace that snapped. I looked back down at my hand, steady now, and placed the linen over my empty dish as if closing a scene. Whatever the ground held, I had already practiced the tone I would use there. We began our descent. I didn't feel like I'd taken her seat. I felt like I'd finally taken mine. Customs in our arrival city was a museum of underslept faces. We flowed through ropes, answered the same questions with different accents, and reunited with our luggage as if it were proof we had remained ourselves while traveling. Samantha stood at the carousel like a general waiting for supplies, arms crossed, heel boredom tapping. When my bag emerged, she grabbed hers with a clean jerk and started walking before I could catch up. Outside, the arrivals hall staged its usual theater. Cardboard signs with last names, sudden tearful embraces, the choreography of taxis. Samantha slowed just enough to ensure I could hear without seeing her face. "You got lucky," she said. "Random upgrades happen. Don't mistake it for merit." "I won't," I said. "I'm just not mistaking your commentary for truth anymore." She stopped, turned, and scanned me as if evaluating a dress she'd never wear. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being specific," I said, voice low, even. "At check-in, you chose to humiliate me. In public." She almost laughed. "Oh my God, are we doing this?" "Not we," I said. "You did that." And a stranger had to say it wasn't acceptable. Her mouth opened, then closed, then reopened with the emergency exit of a justification. I was kidding. "It wasn't a joke to me," I said, "and it wasn't a joke to anyone listening." For a suspended second, we were children again. Her, taller by 2 years and 3 inches, me, holding the corner of a book like a shield. But then a taxi honked, and the glass doors breathed a humid draft, and the present returned. "Whatever," she said, brittle. "We're late for our ride." We rode in the same car in separate silence. The buildings along the highway turned into a conversation I could listen to instead of hers. Glass insisting on modernity, brick refusing it, trees arbitrating. My phone buzzed. A message from our manager reminding us of the dinner with the client that evening. Samantha read it and typed with furious courtesy. At the hotel, the front desk clerk performed a mini miracle. Early rooms. Samantha took her key like a verdict. I took mine like a reprieve. In my room, I washed the flight from my face and stared at my reflection until I recognized her. Myself, not a supporting role in someone else's highlight reel. A knock. I opened the door, expecting housekeeping, found Samantha leaning on the frame instead. She held a garment bag like a flag of truce. "You forgot to bring a real dress," she said. "I noticed when we packed. I brought an extra. It'll fit." I searched for the angle and found, to my surprise, a sliver of earnestness underneath. "Thank you," I said. "That's thoughtful." She shrugged, eyes sliding away. "Clients care about optic. People care about how they're treated," I said. "Same thing," she shot back automatically, then winced and stepped on her own argument. We stood in the doorway with the old weather system between us. She handed me the garment bag. "Don't wrinkle it," she muttered, then softened. "And maybe don't say thank you like that. It sounds like you think I did something wrong." "You did," I said, gentle as I could, "and you also did something kind just now." Her face performed a whole paragraph without words. Offense, defensiveness, confusion, a half-formed apology crushed under habit. "You'll never let anything go," she said finally, and left. I hung the dress. It was undeniably beautiful. Navy silk, quiet, in the light. I laid my own black dress next to it, more cotton than statement, and laughed at the juxtaposition until the sound unknotted something in my throat. Evening settled like a decision. I wore my black dress anyway, added a line of eyeliner, and put on the simple necklace our mother had given us both on different Christmases. At the elevator, Samantha arrived in a sheath of city gold and paused, eyes eating my choice. "You're wearing that?" "I am," I said, "because it's me." At dinner, the client was all warmth and meticulous questions. We took turns answering. I watched Samantha perform competence with the same studied grace she performed everything. Halfway through, the client's VP asked about the flight. Samantha's fork paused. She looked at me, a warning disguised as an invitation. "It was good," I said. "The crew was kind. The sky was bumpy early on, but we settled." The VP smiled. "And you?" Samantha's smile was the right shape, but something had slipped behind it. "Smooth enough," she said. "She rode in first." The pronoun did heavy labor. "Lucky," the VP said, genuinely pleased for me, the way some people are born to be. "Good omen." Samantha swallowed water instead of words. After dinner, on the sidewalk where heat lives after dark, Samantha fell into step beside me. "You could have said it was a mistake," she said quietly. "It wasn't," I answered. "It was a seat on a plane, and it didn't make me better than anyone. Except me," she said. I shook my head. "No, it didn't make you less either. Your words did that to me this morning, not my seat to you." We stood beneath an awning while a brief rain rehearsed for a storm and decided to stay a rehearsal. She intuited something and surprised us both. "What would you have wanted at the counter?" she asked. "For you to look at me," I said, "and say, 'We're together.'" She stared at the street like it might answer back. "I don't know how to do that without competing." "I know," I said. "I don't either, but I'm learning." She huffed a near laugh with no victory in it. "You sounded different at dinner." "I felt different," I said. "Like I didn't need your weather report to know if it was raining." She nodded once. "Okay." Then, as if pushing open a heavy door, "I'm sorry for this morning." She said it to the sidewalk, but the words still reached me. "Thank you," I said. "That matters." We walked the last blocks to the hotel with newly negotiated silence. Less barbed wire, more white space. In the lobby, the night manager rearranged keys with the solemnity of an archivist. We said goodnight not like a ceasefire, but like people who had rewritten one sentence and might someday draft a second. In my room, I set the garment bag on a chair like a guest who might stay. I texted myself a note so I wouldn't forget. Practice looking at her and saying, "We're together." The paradox made sense. Boundaries, it turned out, were the only way over the line. Sleep found me while city noise stitched itself into something kind. Our second day unspooled in meetings and minutes. Samantha and I were teamed for a breakout with the client's product group. In the hallway beforehand, she adjusted her blazer, glanced at me, and said, "You lead the part on user migration. It's yours." It sounded like distribution, not alms. "Okay," I said, matching her economy. In the room, we found our script without having to script it. I talked through the migration map. She fielded procurement landmine. When someone tried to triangulate us, "But your sister said," Samantha cut kindly. "She's right on the process. Here's how we'll operationalize it." The "we" landed like permission to breathe. At lunch, our manager, Peter, a decent man disguised as an anxious one, took us aside. "Whatever you did overnight," he said, "keep doing it." Afterward, in the elevator, Samantha considered the mirrored version of both of us. "You were good," she said. "You too," I returned. Back at the hotel later, I opened my laptop and found an email from the airline. "We hope your experience in first met expectation. We welcome feedback." My fingers hovered. Then I wrote about the check-in supervisor who had chosen tone over spectacle, about Maya's quiet literacy and fear, about how dignity can be as tangible as a hot towel. I didn't mention Samantha by name. This wasn't a score. It was a record, a knock. Our mother's ringtone of all things, video call via family chat. I braced and answered. Mom's face appeared with the eternal kitchen background she loved. "How are my travelers?" she asked, already scanning for signs of hunger or sorrow. "We're fine," Samantha said from my doorway, stepping into frame like she'd always been there. "Meeting's going well." Mom squinted. "You two look aligned," I laughed. "Is that the word?" "It'll do," Samantha said. We told her small things. The manager's relief, the city's heat, a pastry worth writing a will for. We did not tell her about the check-in stage play or the first curtain. Some stories don't need elders. They need time. That evening, Peter suggested we change our flights to return earlier. "If you can swing it, I'll authorize upgrades," he said, harried generosity at full wattage. Samantha looked at me without any subtext I could detect and said, "Do it. We'll keep each other company." At the airline desk, the agent typed a small novel and looked up with professional sorrow. "Only one upgrade left to first," she said. "The other will be business." She waited, kind eyes alert for trouble. Samantha inhaled in a way I recognized from childhood, the intake of a fight, and then surprised. "Put her in first," she said, nodding toward me. "I'll take business." The agent blinked. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Samantha said. "She deserves it." The word landed strange and luminous in the space between us. I started, then stopped. I thought of the morning at the counter, of "you don't deserve business," of luck and merit, and the math we invent around both. I thought of how her choosing me now would matter to me later, in ways I couldn't yet articulate. "Thank you," I said, "but we can swap on the return leg." "Deal," she said, brisk to hide the tenderness. The agent smiled at whatever this was, printed the passes, and slid them to us like a benediction. We walked away shoulder to shoulder for exactly 4 steps before habit returned, and we drifted into our own lane. But the correction had been made. A new draft existed. Departure day. The gate area hummed with that hopeful fatigue, particular to people who have already imagined their showers at home. Samantha and I didn't rehearse the boarding choreography this time. We already knew the steps. When first was called, I stood. She squeezed my arm, quick, without theater, and said, "See you up there." In first, Maya found me with recognition uncluttered by celebrity. "Welcome back," she said. "We saved you the quiet pillow." I laughed. "You remembered." "It's my job to remember what makes it easier to be human at altitude," she said, as if reciting a mission manual I wished the world shared. As we climbed, light slanted through the window like permission. The seat felt less like exception and more like a place to practice the self I wanted to carry and coach. Conference rooms, kitchens. When the first little wobble arrived, I breathed with the old count and realized my body now knew the rhythm before my brain called the numbers. Dinner service had just cleared when Ingrid appeared beside my seat. "Your sister asked me to check on you," she said, conspirator with a smile. "She insists you're terrible at asking for anything." Her words. I groaned. "She's not entirely wrong. Families witness the unedited cut," she said. "Sometimes they forget to write new scripts." She tilted her head. "Looks like you two are working on a rewrite." "We are," I said. "Or starting one." "Good," she said. "Rewrites fly better." Halfway into the flight, the captain announced a detour around weather that would lengthen our time in the sky. No one groaned. This little city had decided, without convening a council, to be the kind that takes care of itself. I stood to stretch, stepped behind the curtain, and found Samantha at the galley, waiting for tea. She saw me and made a face that translated to, "Don't judge me for chamomile." I didn't. "You okay?" I asked. "I am," she said, surprised to hear it. "You?" "Yeah." I paused. "Thank you for earlier." "At the desk." She shrugged. "Seemed obvious." "It didn't used to," I said. No, she admitted. It didn't. We stood with the hum of the aircraft holding the silence together. Then she said, when we were kids, I thought if I wasn't more, I'd disappear. She rolled her eyes at herself. So I learned to be the loudest. It stuck. And I learned to be the smallest, I said. That stuck too. Her mouth tilted. New plan. We try medium. Medium, I repeated, grinning. Ambitious. Tea arrived. She took it like medicine. Go enjoy your throne, she said, not unkindly. Back in my seat, I wrote a note on my phone I planned to send later. To the check-in supervisor. Thank you for naming respect. You started something you didn't get to see. I saved it for the ground. Gratitude, like certain wines, travels better uncorked later. We began our descent into a sky that had decided to behave. We landed to the sound that is not applause, but relief disguised as it. At the door, I waited for Samantha so we could walk the jet bridge together. 2 lanes, same walkway. Home returned us to its messy benevolence. Cracked sidewalks, familiar coffee, the neighbor's dog who had never met a heel it didn't bark at. We debriefed with Peter, filed expenses, and pretended jet lag was a myth we had outgrown. Life tried, as it always does, to fold the extraordinary back into the drawer of ordinary. Saturday arrived with bright weather and our mother's insistence on brunch. We showed up at her kitchen like satellites consenting to orbit. She plated pancakes with a vigor that dared anyone to confess sorrow within reach of syrup. How was the trip? She asked, not looking up because mothers can hear answers more honestly without eye contact. Productive, Samantha said. Good, Mom said. And you? Good, I echoed. Mom poured coffee. You two sound medium, she said, pleased with her own diagnosis. We laughed. Samantha caught my eye over rim of mug and, without words, invoked the agreement. Medium. After dishes and the ritual of wrapping too many leftovers for later, we ended up on the porch where newsprint inked our fingers. A neighbor's kid sold lemonade for $1 and a life lesson. We bought 2 and accepted the lesson. Samantha leaned back, sun finding the plane of her cheek that never learned to be humble. I sent an email, she said, casual, to the airline, commended the check-in supervisor and your people on the plane, Maya, Ingrid. Thank you, I said, somewhere between astonished and not. She shrugged, seemed obvious. I looked at her and chose, deliberately, to say it. We're together. She let out a breath I hadn't known she'd been holding and set her cup down with ceremony. We are. That night, alone with my own quiet, I pulled out a small notebook I carry for promises I intend to keep. I wrote, when called less, do not shrink. When given more, do not gloat. Practice medium. Invite together. I tucked the page where I keep my passport, the place where departures and returns share a pocket. Before sleep, I sent the saved note to the airline. The check-in moment, the course correction, the invisible work of tone. I didn't expect a reply. But in the morning, a message waited. We've forwarded your commendation to the station manager and crew. Thank you for reminding us what service can be. It felt like a door I'd walked through was now held open for whoever came next. A week later, in a different line at a different counter, a stranger behind me sighed too loudly while the person ahead struggled with a bag over the limit. I heard the sigh's invitation to join the performance. I didn't. I said to the agent, take your time. The stranger's face rearranged itself into something less sure of its script. The bag got checked. The day continued. I am not a different person because I sat in first. I am a person who discovered that the seat I choose most often is the voice I use. At check-in, my sister said I didn't deserve business. She was wrong about me, and, I think now, wrong about herself. We both deserve better than the worst things we've learned to say. If you liked this story, don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful tales of conflict, courage, and unexpected turns.